Welcome, jewelers. Welcome all to episode 6 of the Jewelers Podcast. Today, Mega is not with us. He had some scheduling conflicts, but I have myself and Guildmaster Squanch.
What
How are you
up?
doing today?
Doing good. Feeling a little sick, a little under the weather, but show goes on. We got a lot to talk about today with Jewel in the AMA that actually happened today. We're recording on a Monday, so right after the AMA, so we got a lot of topics to get into.
All right. Well, speaking of topics, I know yesterday, or not yesterday, but last podcast, we had talked about Lock Jewel and your Galaxy Brain idea of buying stacks of it and mining it. We had a little bit of clarification we wanted to specify on that. Do you want to clear
Yeah,
the
so
clear the
I
air on that?
yeah, I mentioned that the Lock Jewel would be available in July. I'm incorrect about that. The Lock Jewel will not be available till September or October. Um, this is because it has to do with the block times and in the docs, the official docs of DFK. It originally said July, so I was a little confused. Um, Hopefully you didn't make a huge, large financial decision. Hopefully you didn't take your mom's credit card out and buy all the lock jewel you could with it. But no, just kidding. That doesn't change anything. I still have the same view. Whether it locks, unlocks, doesn't matter. I'm a long-term bull on this, and if you're long-term bullish too, lock jewel is a good way to get exposure.
I agree. Especially if you're wanting to start off with a decent size small bag, like like 4K. It's an intriguing move.
Yeah,
Um,
I think it's just going to give you a longer time frame than other players, and I think if you just take a slow and steady approach, it's a good way to go.
Absolutely. So since our last podcast, we're recording here on Monday, not our usual Sunday. We've had two AMAs. We want to go in and discuss a little bit about both AMAs. Um, we'll start off with the AMA that happened today. Uh, what you think about uh, the talks about the Gen Zeros and genealogy and how it was Matez, very famous in the DFK community on the AMA, is always asking intriguing questions, in my opinion. Uh, Sometimes long-winded, but he had some concerns that I think were solid to bring up about the genes of the new heroes and the Gen Zeros. So in theory, at the beginning, we thought that okay, we would have Seer and Berserker, and we would only have four combinations. We would have for the Gen Zeros, we'd have Seer Seer, Seer Berserker, Berserker Berserker, Berserker Seer as their main class and subclass. We got some clarity on that today that that's not going to be the case. That the team is going to have the subclasses of the Seer and Berserkers be includes the classes from Serendale. So I thought this was an intriguing correction that the team was making, or at least plan. I don't know if they ever, if the correction is the right word, but it's a good plan to keep the genes diverse inside the system, and you don't have to worry about there being like a far overrepresentation of Gen Zeros having Seer and Berserker genes.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense, and there's a lot of good questions around it, and there needs to be a balance of subclass and classes, and we don't want the new Gen Zeros entering the ecosystem to uh, tamper with the current genetics and the current genealogy that we currently have. So, I mean, they have to do something. It seems like they don't have a firm answer yet. It seems like they've just bounced a few ideas around. Sounds like they might have other Gen Zero holders opt into a role to change the current genes of their Gen Zero. That's an interesting idea. And, Gen Zero people would have to be compensated for that in some way, I feel like, or there has to be some hedge to the downside risk of doing a reroll on their Gen Zero. So it's going to be interesting to see how the team plays it out. But like with every other feature and every other change they made to the game, I expect it to be balanced and I expect them to be delicate with their approach and I expect it to be well thought out. So we'll see how that plays out. I thought those questions were interesting, and man, just to be honest, the team seemed kind of on their heels today with some of these questions that were asked around not only the genes of the heroes, but some of the other stuff, the locked jewel that got mentioned, a few other things. I don't know if it was the Discord malfunctioning on them, but man, they didn't seem as sharp or as ready or as prepared as normal. What do you think about that?
Yeah, especially with the Gen Zero questions. So what it sounds like to me when they were talking about a reroll for the Gen Zero, I'm not 100% sure on this, but I think that the player would, I'm not sure if it would change the main class and the subclass of their Gen Zero, or if it would just change the subclass. Not sure, but they did say they would incentivize the Gen Zero holders, so they would, you know, qualify them, I don't know, for an airdrop, or if they would give them some jewel or some other reward. But there is going to be an incentive to get players to re-roll with their Gen Zeros to help diversify the gene pool. So I believe there will probably get a good chunk of people doing that. It will probably be a strong incentive. But there was another question that Raph from the Adventures in DeFi Kingdoms podcast actually asked in the AMA, talking about Gen Zero utility, specifically how they can incentivize a higher return on investment now that summoning has become more expensive with Gen Zeros and the hero floor market dropping. Um, and honestly, the team didn't have a great answer off the top of the hat for the for RAF. They essentially said, well, we're going to incentivize, more rewards for Gen Zeros, such as the reroll, of their Gen Zeros. Well, what about those that don't want to re-roll their Gen Zeros? How are you going to still continue to give them an ROI on that investment? To me, they talked about having exclusive quests, so maybe that's a way they can, uh, give a higher ROI. But really, with those Gen Zeros, it was all about the summoning that was giving people such great, ROI on the investment. But ever since the summoning costs have gone up and the hero floors have gone down, Gen Zero summoning just hasn't been as profitable. Um, this is brings a I want to bring you in on this, Squanch, because I know you do a lot of summoning. Do you think the concerns here with the Gen Zero return on investment is something to be worried about?
Man, I'll say this. It's kind of like probably should be the last of our worries right now is like how could we add value to Gen Zeros that doesn't involve summoning? To me, that shouldn't be the top of the priority list. The top of the priority list that would help the whole environment of this game is just simply creating demand for these heroes. Higher demand, higher utility. That's what we need. Uh, and I think naturally, if heroes are in higher demand, it's going to be more profitable to hold the Gen Zero. They talk about adding extra utility with Gen Zeros like they did with the Perilous Journey and how they helped your heroes survive. So
Mm-hmm.
there's that. And I think the question was more about like, hey, not only should Gen Zeros have value in summoning, they should bring values in other ways. And I don't think the team has thought too far into that, or at least they didn't have a good answer for our buddy there. So I don't know. That was a tough one. But man, I feel like the biggest problem to Gen Zeros not being profitable or as profitable as they used to be, and the biggest problem with the game overall right now is that we just need more hero demand. We need more buyers. We need more buyers. We need more people playing the game, and we need more things to do with the heroes, which we know they're coming. But I think that will fix a lot of the game's economy issues that we're seeing right now.
Yeah, this team has been so good about pivoting when they need to and being very agile to adapting to, issues that are occurring in the system. And I think that they may not have an exact answer on how to increase the ROIs on the Gen Zeros, but I have no doubt that they're going to address it. They're going to take care of the people that invested in these very expensive assets in the game, and they're going to find a way to make them meaningful. But funny enough, that brings us to kind of a topic that I saw you tweet about, that kind of was going around the DFK space in a viral way, Squanch, where you talked about how there may be too much supply of heroes in the space, and you were wanting to get other people's takes on that, I guess, in Twitter. Um, it caused quite a stir. A lot of people. I kind of had this opinion. I think that I don't necessarily think there's an oversaturation of heroes in the market. I think it's more that these heroes don't have the demand that they're supposed to have yet because PvE questing, combat, other profession quests, needing more heroes to do profession quests in Crystal Vale, etc., have just not been implemented. When those are implemented, you're going to see a much more higher increase in demand in heroes, in my opinion. But there were some people that had the counter, narrative that the hero market's oversaturated. That's why summoning is not profitable anymore, and maybe why holding those Gen Zeros aren't profitable anymore. Uh, what was your insights on that take and in the tweet you had, and what did you end up settling on mindset wise?
Well, I'm glad I tweeted it out, and I was just kind of thinking out loud when I tweeted it, and I got a lot of good answers and good responses. And someone had pointed out that Xyz has 6 million little Axie characters, which I guess are like the equivalent of our heroes, and we have like
Mm,
what 160,000 heroes. So when you look at it that way, doesn't sound too bad, right? But Axis is a much further along developed game, and obviously they took shortcuts to get there, in my opinion. But uh, it's just further along, so that's why their economy. I mean, they've had issues with their in-game economy too. There's no doubt about that. I'm not an Axie expert. I didn't play the game, but I do. I've seen the chart of SLP, and I follow some of the people on Twitter and things like that. But they've gone through growing pains just like we have, and I do think when you look at them having 6 million heroes, and we start doing some math, like okay, well we don't have that many active users. If we can just get 100,000 active users, they all need 3 heroes at least. Well, then now we're moving in the right direction, and then I think we can quickly see a supply shock in heroes, kind of like we did when hero prices were going crazy, uh, because there was such high demand for people to try all these summons and get in the Gen Zero raffle and things like that. So I right now I'm short to midterm, just like, uh, it's just going to be a growing pain. I don't think we're going to see a huge spike in hero prices soon, which is unfortunate for me because I'm a big bag holder of heroes, right? And this is why I might be so vocal on Twitter about it, and it's just simply because my bags are big. Like that's what it comes down to, and I gotta stay patient, and I want the price to go up, so just like the rest of us do. So uh, but I'm glad I tweeted out there. I'm glad I got some thoughts. When you look at it like that, 6 million heroes versus our small amount, we're good there. We just need more users and we need more utility, and all that's coming. So I guess for myself, I just need more patience.
yeah, speaking of more utility for the heroes, in today's AMA they talked about prof having new profession quests where you would need to be level 10, to do them, and that those were going to come out at the around the same time pets were, because in the AMA they said that pets would be utilized in the level 10 profession quests. So, as they bring out these more, these quests that, in theory should be more profitable, and you're going to need more heroes to do them and also do the other profession quests. Uh, we should see some hero demand. And as you said, if we get to 100,000 users, because I mean, what are we sitting at, like 25 to 30,000, right now? If I remember right, looking at the charts.
Somewhere around
Um,
there, if we haven't lost any.
right. So in theory, right now, i- if everybody had three heroes, that's around 100,000 heroes. But if we got to 100,000 users, then we would need 300,000 heroes. And we would be well short of that demand. So hopefully the game grows, keeps on growing at an accelerated rate here, and we bring in AVAX users and other chain users when we do when as they expand and bring in outposts, and the game gets more notoriety, and we'll see that here demand increase. But also I wanted to start going into the AMA from last week because there was some major teasers that were dropped. One of the first teasers was the combat teasers. What you think about the combat teaser, the image where they showed the archer fighting the thief?
I thought it looked pretty cool. Overall, I thought it looked good. Um, and I'm excited to see what it looks like. I don't exactly understand how the combat system's going to work. Hopefully you can give us some insight on that. Hopefully you have better understanding of that than I do. Uh, but yeah, that looked good to me, and that's about what I was expecting. So something along those lines, with some good art, some fun animations. I think everything looked good to me. I was excited about it. It was definitely a good teaser, and definitely something I wanted to make get it that gets me excited about the future of the game and the PVE PvP.
Yeah, so I do want to clarify some of the combat because I did tweet out the image from the AMA of the combat, and there were people that were commenting in under the tweet suggesting, saying like, "Oh, it's going to be so frustrating having to do so many transactions for the combat." And unfortunately, like these people's tweets were getting a lot of likes, and I just want to clarify the team has specified that combat is not going to be a multi-transaction event. It is going to be idle combat, which today in the AMA they were calling gambit play. But anyway, essentially what is going to happen is you're going to probably most likely do a transaction to initiate a combat. You're going to align your heroes in a strategic way or with uh, when going into the combat. And then you're going to do the transaction, and then the combat will happen through random number generation. And you will not actually have to be at the computer or on your phone watching the combat. It will just occur with with RNG. And then you probably will have to do a transaction to end the combat. Um, And I just want to get that specified and cleared because there's a lot of people that believe we're going to be doing, oh, character has to do one action, submit transaction, another action, another transaction. That's not how it's going to be. Um, but what are your thoughts on the idle combat style versus the per
Well,
turn style?
I know they want to stay true to it being a blockchain game and all the transactions and everything, all the data in the game existing on chain. And I think that that is going to bring some challenges to the way they want to do the battle. But I don't know. To me, it seems like it's a transaction you're going to queue up, and then when you come back later, like claiming your hero type deal, that's when you'll get to see the animation. So I don't know if we're making decisions real time, or if our whole team is just one preset run that we set up and go. So I don't know if it's going to be like turn based, where we're taking turns battling against each other, or if you'll just queue up your hero, come back, claim it, and then watch the events that unfolded via like a script almost. So I don't know exactly how that's going to work, but either way, I think it'll be exciting, and I think the incentive to level up your heroes and compete will always be there, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it sounds more like the latter to me from what I get from the AMAs, but obviously it's just speculation on my end. But just from the information they've given, it seems to be you set up your heroes, you click, transact, and let them run out the script against whatever they're fighting, and then uh, probably we'll have a transaction to close out the combat once it's complete. Also, another major teaser they dropped was the image of the pet. Um, what do you think about that pet? There's
Um,
also a lot of questions and clarifications that need to be made about the pets, but apparently that one that they showed was supposedly one of the more rare pets. But anyway, what were your takes on that, Squanch?
I liked the way the pets looked and all the teasers for the pets. It's the card. I thought that was kind of ugly on him, but I don't know. I ran it by a few other people. They seemed to think it was all right, but I'm not like an image artist, expert, or graphic designer or anything like that. But man, those cards just look thick and clunky, and but the pets inside them look cool. So I'm excited. Look, man, I've had my eggs forever. Just let them hatch. I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready for these eggs to hatch. I want my pets. I want to feed them. I want to take care of them. And I want to build a bond with my pets the way I have built a bond with my heroes. So I just want them out. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. They put the hatchery guy out there in the marketplace. I've been clicking on him every day, just like in excitement, waiting for him to take my eggs. But I'm excited that it's all coming, and I think it's pretty cool that they're gonna roll out the blue and gray eggs first. We'll get to hatch those, and then we'll get to hatch the green, yellow, and gold ones later on. So I'm excited about that. But that was dropped today. But all the teasers about the pets, I couldn't be more excited for them. I'm just ready for them because, man, I was one of the first people I feel like to get a blue egg. I know it was like one of the first 400 eggs minted or something like that that I got. So I'm like ready. I've literally had this egg for like 6 months, I think.
Good news for you. I believe they said that that card that was around the pet that they showed was not the final. Was not going to be the final art for the card of
Woo!
the yeah of the
They
pet.
must have heard me on Twitter.
So I believe they specified that the card surrounding the pet was not going to be the final product. So I thought that the pets looked creative and they are about what I expected for the game. One thing I do want to clear up though is this was also a question on that AMA. Somebody asked, "Will the pets evolve, kind of like Pokemon?" And I don't think people were clear on the answer the devs gave. So the pets, and it was kind of the way they worded the answer that made it confusing, but the pets themselves, once they hatch, they will not evolve. They are what they are, uh, visually at least. Whether they increase their stats or whatnot, I do not know. But visually, it sounded like the devs were saying that they will stay the same visually once they hatch. Now, your pets will have different rarities, and the so you can have a pet that is a common panda, right? A rare panda will look different than a common panda. So that is what I understood when they said that they evolve based on rarity. So they will look different based on rarity. It's not that they level up and they'll look different like Pokemon. It's just if you hatch one that's rare versus one that's common, the rare one will look differently, more evolved maybe, more badass. But I just wanted to clarify that because I saw people on Twitter excited about pet evolution, and it was clear that they got a different interpretation of what I think the devs were saying. And as we noticed with the update on Wednesday, as you mentioned, we got the hatchery. Um, Also, I wanted to mention that the town crier, and this was brought up on the Bogside Chats podcast. The crier is talking about spiders, needing to be uh, cleared or being dangerous. And I kind of think this ties into with something the devs were talking about in the last week's AMA. Um, so they said that they've been working on map travel, and it kind of they didn't say it was around the quarter, but they did bring it up. And I feel like they brought it up purposefully, and I kind of feel like this spider quest is going to kind of be like a training mini quest to kind of test out map travel, and questing in general. I think they're going to come together. So I expect and I don't think the spider quest is going to be a mainline quest or anything, but I kind of expect that, we'll do a training. They did say we'll have training quests, to start off, make sure everything runs smoothly and we understand how it works, and, you know, them to make sure that it runs smoothly on chain. Uh, but I kind of feel like this town crier spider quest will be a training quest that will incorporate some map travel. What were your thoughts on that, Squanch?
Please, please let that be what it is. Please let people need more heroes to go fight these spiders. Please let there be a lot of incentive to go kill these spiders. That's what we're ready for. I think that's what's coming. And yeah, I do think you're right. I think we're going to have to travel around the map a little bit, go out, explore Serendale, slay some spiders, get some cool items, get some experience, get some level ups. And start using these heroes, and I think it's coming soon. And I think this is a good way for the team to tease about it, and I think that's coming. I'm right there with you. I think our friends over there at Boxside Chats are onto something, and I think I'm excited to see how it all plays out.
Yeah, this I just want to bring up segue into a side topic here. Um, I just on and I'm here I am ranting about Twitter. It's just, there's just so much information about the DFK ecosystem on my Twitter because I'm immersed in it and I see so much of it. And there's just a lot of people complaining that, as of right now, it's just profession quests and it's just staking like the game. And I would argue that that's not all there is. I mean, there's been a ton of time put into the art design of this game, developing a new map and expanding onto another chain, developing their own subnet, creating the marketplace for NFTs, selling them, transferring them, all this sort of, there's been so much development in the game. And I think some people get sidetracked just because all there is for their heroes to do currently right now is to just do the four profession quests that have been in the game since at least January, if not maybe December. Uh, I kind of feel like people give the devs, uh, not a fair shake about how much work they've done. This has been one of the fastest, developing projects I've seen in the crypto space, and it has one of the best teams I've seen in the crypto space, and it's one of the most innovative projects I've seen in the crypto space. And I think people are a little too hard on the devs here, and I think they're developing at a very fast rate, in my opinion. And they care to get it right, and I'm glad they do. And I have no issues with the current timelines with things, but I do know they're under a lot of pressure to get things out, to get people excited, to get them amped up for the game. And everybody, there's a lot of pressure on them, the devs, because people want to see combat. But I just want to say, give the devs a break. I mean, they've done so much for this game already and so much for the community. And I just don't think there's a better project in this in the space right now. Um, but I'm glad to see it looks like, combat questing's around the corner, and maybe that will put some of the, people that are having, issues with the game developing not as fast as they want, put them to get make them satisfied for some time. What about you, Squanch? What do you think?
Well, look, man, we all over invested. We're all balls deep. So of course it's gonna feel like the devs are never doing enough, especially when prices going down. And that's just how it's gonna feel, and that's just part of being in crypto and the sediment we're in. We're in a whole new environment where we can invest in startups by investing in these on-chain coins, and this is just new territory. And it's exciting territory, and it's volatile all the way around from price to emotions. And finger pointing, and I've been in many communities, none quite like this one, and none as strong as this one. And I do feel that these devs are the best. I mean, come on, man. Are you kidding me? The first multi-chain play to earn game with their own subnet. They're getting things done. They're getting things done at an unbelievable pace, and it's easy to get caught up in all this, especially when you're seeing your money go down or not perform the way you want it to. Um, and it's easy to get caught into the day to day and wonder when that egg hatching's coming or when these quests are coming and when's this coming and forever, forever, forever it always feels like. But I could be a little guilty of it too. But we're all here together, and a big reason I do this podcast because we can all talk about these kinds of things in a more civil manner than on Twitter, and verbal communication is always better. So that's where I'm at with it, and I love these devs. I trust these devs, and this is a great community to be in. But man, whew, Twitter could be a toxic place. Sometimes you just gotta unplug from the damn thing and turn that off. So, but all in all, I think they're doing great, and I'm right in line with you. And I'm just staying course, staying patient, and if this PVE PvP comes out to be anything, well, we're looking at a beast, man. We're looking at 10 billion market cap easy for Jewel and Crystal. So, combined market cap within a short amount of time too. So that's where I'm at with it, and that's where my thesis has been, and that's where it's going to be. So, team has done nothing but actually get me to double down on this thing. So that's where I'm at with it.
I agree. I think this could easily be a $5 to $10 billion market cap project, and just to give some perspective, if you go to Dreamer's Twitter, in his bio it says he was former VP, of Goldman Sachs. So my point is that these guys understand finance that are involved in this game. They have very, very good artists involved in this game, from the music to the art. Like this game is, they care a lot about it. They're putting in the resources to make it something special, and I think people just need to keep that in mind, when complaining or criticizing on Twitter.
Well, look, Dreamer's background in Goldman Sachs. I mean, he's got to be the king of Ponzi's, and we got a Ponzi going here, guys. All jokes aside, I know Dreamer probably left the traditional finance role for a lot of the reasons I talked about earlier about how this is all new and exciting and giving a new idea to being an unlicensed or unaccredited investor and being able to get in on the ground floor just through code, through tokens, and we're self-regulating ourselves. And I know that's what Dreamer sees in this space, and I know that's why he left the traditional finance space, and that's exactly why I personally decided to not go down the traditional route and go down this crypto rabbit hole. So this place is amazing, and I find a lot of like-minded individuals here, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. And yeah, pump the Ponzi. It's going 10 billion plus.
Absolutely. So, going into talking about a little bit, regarding the finances of the game, we had a jeweler ask a question regarding how the gardens in DFK work. Um, so if you look at the docs, I think they do a pretty good job explaining it. Obviously, there's not everything is explained in the docs, but that it things go in epochs with the gardens, and for the epochs on Harmony are not clear cut. They're based off chain speed, which I'm not technical, so I'm not exactly sure what that entails with the epochs, relating to chain speed. But they in the docs they say that each epoch will be about a week on Harmony, but I don't think that that's been the case because they've pushed back the unlocked jewel rate until probably around September based on the current epoch rates on Harmony. So I think it's taken longer than expected to go through these epochs on Harmony, but on Avalanche, it is certainly a week. Each epoch is a week on Avalanche. It's timestamped. So the epoch rates are going to be slightly different regarding Harmony and Avalanche. So it will be more standardized on Avalanche, and there will be more variants of the epoch scheduling on Harmony. Right now, we know on Serendale and on Harmony that the unlocked to locked jewel ratio rate is 61% unlocked to 39% locked. And since I am a Serendale Maxi and I'm not involved in Crystal Vale, I'm not quite sure what the current locked to unlocked rate is on that. Do you know by chance, Squanch? I know you're in heavy on Crystal Vale right now.
Oh, I think it's down. I think it's down to 93% locked versus the 97 it started with. And again, like I just throw my money in there and forget about it. I don't sit there and check on it or anything like that. So I don't know exactly where it's at, but it's either at like 93 or 94% locked, and that would leave you 6 or 7% unlocked versus
All
the
right.
3 when it first started.
And so I also want to, point out that when you pull out your LP tokens, there is certain penalties when you pull them out. So if you pull out your LP tokens, and I think you have to split them. If you split the LP tokens, then you'll have to restart. But anyway, I want to clarify: when you pull out the LP tokens from the gardens, depending on when you pull them out from when you put them in, there's going to be a percentage that is taken away from the rewards that you get from the LP tokens. So, for example, if you put the LP token in and then in less than 24 hours you pull the LP tokens, you will get 25% of your rewards will be uh, burned. I think it's burned, and you will only receive 75% of those rewards. If you wait 5 days, I believe that goes down to 1%. Uh, of the Only 1% of your rewards will be burned from when you pull the LP tokens, and then after 5 days, it goes into epochs. So after you go through 2 epochs, which on Harmony, like I said, there's variance on how long the epochs are. Um, you can get down to 0.001% or 0.01%, I mean, rewards being burned. And that's how it also works in Crystal Vale. Does that sound correct, Squanch, to you?
Yeah, yeah, that sounds exactly right. And it, it comes down to the epochs and things like that. But when you withdraw, you have to make sure that I believe it's 5 epochs you have to hit. Otherwise, you're going to get hit with some kind of fee. And the earlier you pull out, I know with pulling out within the first few hours or 24 hours or even 48 hours is like a big no-no, a big mistake. So make sure you don't do that. And make sure if you're putting your money in the gardens, you have a well thought out plan.
Yeah. Also, I wanted to bring up, so while we're talking about the gardens, the what we've noticed, the APRs obviously have been fluctuating quite a bit in Crystal Vale and Serendale. And I'm going to speak from the Serendale side. I know they're going down in Crystal Vale, and that was kind of planned with APR starting off so high, and each epoch the APR is getting lower in Crystal Vale. But in Serendale, we have had APRs fluctuate all over. They were, the Jewel 1 pull was at about 225, and then when Crystal Vale opened, Jewel 1 hit to 500% APR, and then now we're floating like 373, 373%. And I've just, from being in the Serendale Gardens since January, I have noticed some patterns, and it's an algorithm that they have employed that dictates these APRs in the gardens. And it's not just linked to how much liquidity is in the gardens. That's part of it for sure. So a less amount of money that's being staked in the gardens, in theory, you would think you're getting more rewards. But that's not completely the case. I have noticed that the gardens percentage correlates very strongly to jewel price. So when jewel price drops, the APRs in Serendale Gardens drop significantly. And there is a reason I believe this happens. Now, obviously, this is reckless speculation. I have no knowledge of the algorithm they use. This is just off, looking at this pattern. When jewel price decreases, uh, from $11, which we saw pre Crystal Veil, right before Crystal Veil launched, to now we're sitting at like 450. Uh, they don't, the devs, they can't have the gardens just be printing out Jewel at an unprecedented rate if the Jewel price is decreasing, because then they're causing more inflation to a token that is losing value. So what I've noticed is when the price of Jewel goes down, the APRs in the gardens go down, and I believe that is by design to kind of halt the inflation rate of Jewel to keep the price from going too far down. And I would imagine they're employing the same technique in Crystal Veil. And then when jewel price goes up, they raise the APR because they want to lower the jewel price to help people get into the game at entering the game at a where jewel's a reasonable price. So they inflate the APRs to print more jewel to kind of control the price from, getting out of hand. What do you think about that theory, Squanch?
I mean, something like that has to exist, otherwise we would just, inflate the token to oblivion. So, it makes sense if the price of Jewel is going down, then, if they're paying out in Jewel, then your APR is going to go down, right? If you're looking at it in terms of US dollars, right? So, all that stuff's above my head. I kind of just throw money in there, claim it when it comes out to be a lot, and that's kind of how I play it. But yeah, that makes sense to me, and that's kind of how it has to be. Otherwise, I feel like if it didn't work with some kind of mechanism like that, then we would have too much supply, and it would be crazy and not good, not good. So yeah, I think something like that's in place.
Yeah, I just feel like it has to be. These devs are smart. They know what they're doing. They have finance people that are president of the company here. So I'm with you that there's got to be something like that in place. Also, we have another jeweler question here. Thoughts on the current state of heroes? Specifically, what do you think is the value on hero rarity right now? Mining versus other professions, possible speculation on the price of the new heroes.
Well, let's move
It,
through these one by one. I mean,
all
as
right.
far as like
Yeah.
hero rarity goes, I mean, I don't think I think those legendary rares they're still undervalued. I think that you can have competitive commons. I think it's a well balanced system. I think just because you have a team of commons doesn't mean you can't come in here and kick ass. I don't think that's the case at all. I also don't think if you um, don't have any legendaries or mythics, like that's going to give you an advantage. So, but not one that can't be overcame. Now, as far as like pricing of the heroes goes, man, I think these rares and legendaries are still underpriced. Personally, that's how I feel about them. But it's tough to say. It's tough to answer that question without knowing exactly how PvE, PvP works, or even how these advanced level quests are going to look. But in my opinion, they're undervalued as a whole. And I do think that if you're looking at the internal sectors, rare and legendary are even more undervalued.
Yeah, I've been looking in the tavern. I think a good time to buy heroes is when jewel price is low and the APRs are decreasing in the gardens. Not financial advice. I just think that's kind of a good way to a good time to capitalize on some heroes. But uh, I just the rarity. I kind of feel I'm going to be contrarian here. I kind of think that is overvalued. And I'm gonna bring up this example. They on Boxside chats they talked about hero rarity versus the class of the hero, and they were talking. They follow Matez's YouTube channel, and I wish I could find it. I don't know his YouTube channel, so if anybody has Matez's YouTube channel, please comment and put it down. for us to for me to follow because I want to hear his content. He's got some pretty thought out questions on the AMAs. And anyway, Tez did a scenario of a getting having a legendary basic class versus an elite class hero, a common elite class hero, and which one would be better at level 10. Um, I believe they in Bogside chats he used a dragoon and I think a wizard, and the dragoon actually ends up being the more competitive, higher statted character at level 10 compared to the common dragoon compared to the legendary wizard. So, in my opinion, I think right now what's undervalued in the tavern is hero class, where hero rarity may be overvalued in my opinion. And I've been following some heroes for a while in the tavern, and I'm noticing that people that are putting an extreme premium on legendary and and mythics, of course, they're just not selling. Their price, they're just sitting in limbo and they're decreasing their price, every so often, but they're just still not selling. But when uh, obviously people are buying those common dark knights that, have a strength level of, 27, as soon as they're listed for, 120 jewel. So I don't know. That's my take on it. You got any
No,
pushback
I
on that
like
much?
that. No, I can't. I mean, I can't argue with a lot of what you're saying, and I have been a big proponent since we started this podcast that like if you see a dragoon under 100 jewel or a sage or any elite class, it's a steal. It's a steal. It's a freaking steal. The elite class heroes are even more of a steal than the rare and legendary in my mind. So
Yeah.
that's definitely something to look at, and it makes sense, dude. Those heroes are so much harder to get, right? And you gotta spend a lot of money to get them. It's not cheap to go get a dragoon, guys. I don't know if y'all have ever tried to get one. It ain't cheap. So, but yeah, I think that's good, and we can move on from the hero rarity, and let's move on to the next question.
All right. They want a jeweler question here. They want our thoughts on mining versus other professions.
It is what it
Uh,
is. Miners are going to be worth more, and they are worth more until it changes. Until they add more utility for fish or in-game items or anything else, ain't nothing gonna be more precious than that locked jewel, baby. I mean, and mining pays the most money. And if you want a gardener that compete, well, then you're taking on risk, right? If you already have that locked jewel, you've already taken that risk on. You can get your miner to go get the locked jewel. Whereas if you want to set up a garden, which I'm in the gardens too, don't have any intentions of pulling out anytime soon, well, it's just a bigger investment, right? So mining heroes are, and you can mine gold with them. Like, dude,
yeah.
mining heroes are the most valuable right now. Until the landscape changes, until something changes, they're gonna be the most valuable. And as far as I can project, they'll always be the most valuable.
I mean, just think about the demand for these miners once you can start mining in Crystalville. I mean, good God, right now mining is over the mining floor price is, generally over double, depending on, what heroes are listed, but it's mostly double the floor price of any other profession. And I think once Crystal Vale mining unlocks, you're gonna you're gonna see that go up to 2.5, 3 times, probably pretty consistently, because there's gonna just be whales that want to start mining that crystal.
Yeah, what would you
But
rather have? Your locked jewel unlocked or your bloaters? Not really a tough decision right now.
yeah, and early on, when I got into this game and I started participate or listening in on the AMAs, the devs were very strong proponents of saying that they saw equal value in all hero professions, though the community definitely was signaling that mining was the most valuable. And I'm siding with the community here, man. Until the devs give me something better than ragweed and bloaters, with the foraging and fishing professions, mining is going to be more valuable. And personally, I know a lot of people shit on gardeners. I find my gardeners incredibly useful because I have a good amount of my money invested in the game allocated to the garden, so I pull a decent amount of jewel from the gardens. It's not mine, as much as miners would pull from lock jewel if I had a huge stack of lock jewel, but it's I get more from gardening most certainly than I do from foraging and fishing. But yeah, until the devs give us something to implement with the other you know materials we get from foraging and fishing, the mining's just going to reign supreme. But I did want to, we forgot to mention this. They did say that we would need some of those foraging items, fishing items, maybe for hatching our eggs. Now I know that's not going to increase a huge demand on those items, but there is going to become some utility to the fishing and foraging items, it appears,
I don't
when
think until we see PvE,
hatching the eggs.
PvP, I don't think we're going to see real utility for those items. I mean, because I don't see I see those items being used for things like, okay, we just got back from a big battle. Let me rebuild my stamina. Let me reconstruct my shield that was damaged, or sharpen my sword, and all that. That's where
Right.
those material items are coming in. Anything they just do now, that's just sprinkling or just getting an idea for how it's going to work. But okay, so we got mining are the most valuable heroes right now. We don't see that changing anytime soon. What else we got?
Um, so we have another Jiller question here regarding our speculation on the Seer and Berserker. Not any specific things about the speculation, but I'm guessing maybe how we would value them price wise.
Oh well,
Yeah.
dude, I'm gonna have. I just want one, so I'm gonna buy one. So that's what that is. I'm gonna pay market price for one. I might try and be patient, because like obviously the value of them's gonna go up and down, just like every other asset in this game has done. So don't be like me. Don't FOMO into one. But I'm gonna want one. I'm gonna want to tweet about it, and I'm gonna want to have one. Um, but at the end of the day, it's not gonna have any more utility than any other class of hero. It's not any special. So I wouldn't pay more than a normal. I wouldn't advise anybody else to pay more than you would for a normal hero. Or and maybe if it's a basic class, don't pay more than what a paladin or dark knight or advanced class is going for. But hey, teach their own. I'm probably gonna overpay for one. It's whatever. I want one.
And I know Squanch, and I'm gonna tell you right now, there's no way that Berserker that he buys is going to be anything lower than a rare. It's gonna be a rare or legendary, more than likely, and
Yeah, yeah.
he's gonna pay he's gonna overpay, he's gonna pay a big bag of jewel for it, but he's gonna get his precious Berserker, and he's probably gonna summon with it and hit those advanced classes pretty soon. So just knowing Squanch. I'm got an opposite strategy from Squanch here. I'm pretty patient. I'm definitely not going to overpay for the new heroes. I like the seer. I will just wait till those prices come down, and I'll cop myself a seer. Once they get around, 40 to 50 jewel probably. Um, yeah. So that's gonna be my strategy with the new heroes. Sorry not to be too exciting, but I'm just not I'm not the type to ape in on something you know that's so novel. It's just not my personality. But we'll see how the market plays it out. They could be at a high price for a while depending on how much summoning occurs with those Gen Zeros. Um and with the diversifying gene pool, it's going to be a little more difficult than originally thought to produce seers and berserkers
Yeah, you
because
might be able to hedge. Like if you want
yeah,
one, but you're not a summoning guy, you might be able to get one and then hire it out, right?
yeah,
So
absolutely.
that might be a good way if you're like me and you really want one, but you're not into summoning. Hey, those are gonna be in high demand to hire with. People are gonna want to experiment and summon with those. We all know the community is like 90% summoning degens, so uh, there you go. That might be a good idea. We'll probably touch more on that as it gets closer to date. But dude, we are at 55 minutes already, Agentic. So what else we got from the community that we
Yeah,
can answer?
let's Yeah, let's kind of fire here. We've kind of touched on some of these topics from that the jewelers have asked. They had some questions about speculation about advanced quest, future utility of heroes, and pricing. Feel like we kind of covered that throughout this podcast. Do you have any additional thoughts on any of those?
Nope, I think we did good on those.
All right, and then one last thing. That a jeweler question. I think this is an important topic to talk about right now as the market is way down. What do you think the meta ratio of crystal jewel will be? Which power token do you like more?
Oh, well, I like Jewel more long term. It's just I know when the new realm comes out, you're probably gonna have to do the same thing. You're probably gonna have to go stake Jewel X Jewel over there to print the new realm token, kind of like we did with Crystal. I like Jewel long term because it's gas on the DFK subnet, and it's getting burned. 50% of that, by the way. And like as far as this 1-to-1 ratio goes, man, I think in a perfect world that's how it plays out, and I think it will play out that way. But I think as things are happening and as the games are going, it's going to fluctuate. It's going to be. It won't always be Jewel's worth more than Crystal or Crystal's worth more than Jewel. There's no absolute. I see the prices fluctuating, like we saw right here with the launch of Crystal Veil. I mean, you can't earn 1800% APY on your jewel. Well, you can on your Jewel X Jewel, but you needed that crystal, right? So people were willing to pay a premium for that crystal. Whether that was smart or not, it's very up for debate. But a lot of people paid that premium on the crystal, and I think there will be times where people want to go pay a premium on Jewel, and then there'll be times where people want to go pay a premium on Crystal, depending on what the devs have going on, what heroes are out there, what Crystal's being used for, how they can create different APYs for the different coins, and it's going to be a game of supply and demand. And I do think that it makes most sense for it to be 1-to-1, but I don't think it'll always be that way, and I think it's going to be a power struggle back and forth between the two. And I think anything other than speculating on that is going to be tough. What do you think?
Yeah, so this is a good question to bring up because Ogre, had a tweet regarding the ratio of Crystal Jewel eventually being 1-for-1, and there was a lot of flack, people saying, that can't be because there will only be a quarter supply of Crystal compared to Jewel. So for those that don't know, they're going to mint 25% the amount of Crystal as they will for Jewel. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a 4-to-1 ratio. And I like Sandwich Punch's take on this. Shout out to the Inner Grove podcast. I do a lot of shout outs for other podcasts here. So anyway, Sandwich Punch said, don't look at Crystal as its own token as much of just look at it as an expansion of Jewel. Uh, Meaning it's gonna have the same utility, it's as Jewel. It's just going to have that utility in Crystal Vale versus Serendale. And in fact, Jewel's gonna have a little more utility because it will be used as gas in all these expansion chains, where Crystal will not. So we could argue that Jewel will actually have, more utility. But I just want to remind everybody, going back to just past AMAs, you will hear over and over again the devs say Serendale is the centerpiece of the game, where Jewel is the power token is going to be the centerpiece of the game. They plan to have 4 expansion realms. Um, and when they talk about Serendale being the centerpiece of the game, that is probably where 50% of all questing activity is probably planned to occur. And then the rest of the 50% will probably be spread out across the other 4 expansions. And they've already said that, quests will require you to go, cross realms. So, I think that there's a lot of ways the devs can, dictate getting these power tokens to be near 1-for-1. I don't. They're never going to be perfectly one for one. Like there will always, but I do think they'll always be within a couple, USD of each other. I don't think they're going to, you won't see one, consistently be $10 more than the other. I just don't think that will be the case. Uh, but that's kind of my take on it. Do you have any finishing thoughts,
No,
Squanch?
other than I'm excited to see how it plays out, and I want exposure to both, and heck, I might try to bounce in and out of both depending on what's going on, try to make some money that way.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll close this podcast out now. I want to say that next time our professional moderator slash host Mega will be here on the podcast. It just didn't work out for him today, so I did my best substituting as the host here. I know it's not gonna be as smooth, but hope it was still an enjoyable listen for everybody, and hopefully there's plenty of good information that y'all find useful. We just wanted to get a podcast out for the community. Meanwhile, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you like the content you're hearing, and feel free to follow us on Twitter. We'll have our Twitters down below, along with our Discord, which I want to emphasize again. Our Discord environment is amazing. It's very active. We always have really good perspectives in the Discord. We just did a giveaway, so we do those from time to time in the Discord. So feel free to join our Discord if you want to talk about DFK. And anything else, Squanch, that I'm missing?
Shout out Jewelers, shout out Mega. We missed you today, my guy. Can't wait to have you back on with us. No, that's all I got. I'll talk to you all soon. I'll see you in the Discord.
All right. Peace.
Peace.